Hey guys, Matt here from my second video of the day after first one I did today. God, what was? Oh yeah, the band. I'm doing a total 180 from the band, and I'm doing another Prog video, my first one since my Rush video, which was in what was it? Early December. This is late January. So this is gonna be the Nice, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer, basically following the career of Keith Emerson. From the 60s and the 70s. Same way I did my Ritchie Blackmore video when I followed, him from Deep Purple and then into Rainbow. So that's one of my most viewed videos. So hopefully this will follow similar ground. So Keith Emerson, whom they used to call the Jimi Hendrix of the keyboard, of the piano, of the organ, of the Moog, whatever. And that's, it's fair enough. He was always more bombastic, than say, Rick Wakeman or Tony Banks. Well, way more than Tony Banks. He was a virtuoso who liked to show off, right? And from the beginning, from the first Nice album right through ELP, that's what he was known for. You didn't listen to Keith's playing and expect subtlety. You could see dynamics in play, and he could be like a softer, gentler player, but his whole thing was flash. He wanted to strut his stuff, and that's what we liked him for. So let's begin. I'm gonna get the Nice albums first. Let's get them out the way. I have this little box set, Here Come the Nice, which of course is a Small Faces song. The Immediate Anthology, 3 CDs. It does not reproduce the album covers. So what I did, I'll show you. These are the CDs, right? It's 3 discs, but I'll show them, as I talk about them, because this is a little, poster type thing which comes in the box. This is the first album, The Thoughts of Emerson Davjak. They took all of their last names and they combined them, and that's how they got, Emerlist? Yeah, Emerson Davjak. It is a psychedelic album. Let me find disc 1 here. Yeah, this is disc 1. As you can see, it doesn't have the picture. It's a psych album. It's progressive, in the sense of it's coming out of London in, 1967. But, that's the year of psych. So it's not a prog. There was no prog as we know it in 67. You get the whole album. You get bonus tracks. This is the way I recommend listening to the Nice. This, again, Here Come the Nice, 3 discs. It's just the first 3 albums, though. I'll get to their last 2 albums after this. So it's all pretty good. Thoughts of Emerson Davjak, Azrael, Flower King of Flies is a nice little, kind of a psych pop song. Ironicate Rondo. Rondo is like, their version of that Dave Brubeck tune, Blue Rondo a la Turk. War and Peace, Times of Mag. It's all fairly good. You get the single version of America here, the Sondheim Bernstein song from West Side Story, which was their first charting, 45 in England. It was supposed to be like a protest against the Vietnam War, I guess, but it's a good example of Keith using not classical references, because what he really was into was using European classical antecedents for his music. He would put those, European composers who were long since dead, the pantheon of the old dead white guys, and put that music in his music being made in the 60s and the 70s. He did that all through Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He was doing it in the Nice. That's where Keith Emerson is coming from. He's way more into that than he is just, like rock and roll. So Thoughts of Emerson Davjak, pretty good psych album. And, you get the America, bonus track on there. So is it my favorite Nice album? Tell you what, since we're starting to talk about the Nice now, let's open up the floor to do the nice, have a classic album? I'm going to say no. Classic meaning like a 5-star album, you know, like some of those early ELP records. I'm going to say no, and I'll tell you why. Even though Keith is doing with the nice what he would be doing later on with ELP, he was almost fully formed in '67. I do not think that Lee Jackson is a good enough singer. You know, I think, well, I'm not going to say that they should have got a better singer, because, I mean, it was only, eventually there was just 3 of those guys, and then it was 4 at first, because, you know, Davey O'List was the guitar player on the first album. And I don't know if he plays on the second album or not, but anyways, it's mainly Jackson's vocals, which I don't know if they irritate me, but Greg Lake was such a better singer, you know. Carl Palmer was a better. It's like, I don't know. I know a guy who's really into prog who likes the nice better than he likes ELP. So, you know, there are people like that out there. So I don't want to be down on that, but I'm going to say no, there is no 5-star nice album. However, Thoughts of Emerald Dab Jack might be my favorite one, and it's the most psych. All right. The second one always has the Latin title, which I can never get right. So I'm going to say it to you. Ars longa vita brevis. There it is. It kind of has a cool, that's like the x-rays of the 3 guys in the band. Like I said, Davey wasn't there. It is. Ars longa vita brevis. I'm not going to even say it anymore. I'm just going to say ars longa. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you what my opinion is on that. And that's on this first disc too. See? It starts down there. Now, does that continue on to disc 2? Because it might. Yes, it does. Okay, so it's on disc 2 as well. Okay, so that's a prog album. I know that, you know, Receive Wisdom is that In the Court of the Crimson King is the first real prog album. And I don't have a problem with that in as much as it is certainly the best prog album of 1969, but there was prog before that. Ars Longa, Vita Brevis, got it right. That's an example of a prog album in 1968. It is not as good as that Crimson LP, but it's a prog album. I mean, oh gosh, I know I shouldn't be trying to read this right now. Well, let's talk about some of the songs. Daddy, Word Like, oh, you know, Keith sings on this album too. It was rare that Keith ever sung. Daddy, Where Did I Come From? Little Arabella, Happy Freud's, Intermezzo from the Corellia Suite. I love those pompous titles, right? That one's almost 9 minutes long. See, that's prog, you know. And then it was a tiny little track. And then disc 2, we get into the meat. That's the Ars Longa Vita Brevis, over 19-minute suite of 4 movements and a coda. That's prog, you know? Side 2 of that album, that's prog. It may not be brilliant prog, you know, but so Ars Longa Vita Brevis is my nomination for a prog album In the Court of the Crimson King. All right? Is it a great album? That's up to you to decide, you know. I like it. I like all the nice albums, but I'm not sure if I love any of them. And then you get the Brandenburger single. And then you get Nice, the third album. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Nice starts, I think, the deal that the Nice had from then on of having some live tracks and some studio tracks. So Nice is 1969. Also pretty good, as all of these are. Azrael Revisited, because they'd done the Azrael track earlier. Hang On to a Dream is the Tim Hardin number. They did have a propensity, I wonder if it was Lee Jackson doing this, to cover like singer-songwriters of that era, like Tim Hardin and Dylan. Diary of an Empty Sky, For Example, is pretty good. That's almost 9 minutes. That's an Emerson and Jackson tune. Then a live version of Rondo, which was like a nice staple. And, you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer interjected that into some of their live material too. She Belongs to Me, there's the Dylan tune. This stuff was recorded at the Fillmore East. All right, that one goes on for almost 12 minutes. So again, this is Prog. All right, so you get the first 3 albums on the first 2 discs. And the third disc, disc 3, I think is just all, previously unissued live tracks. All right, so that's it. That's it for the immediate albums. Put that aside. Then we get the 5 Bridges Suite. All right, now this is a live recording. It's very classical minded. These are the 5 bridges in London. I can't recall now, or Manchester. Again, I should have researched this, but you know, it's easy to find this stuff online. This is also pretty good. This is an SACD, so I don't think I put this in right because the OB should be over here. So it's not a CD. I can't play this on a CD player. So it's rare that I pull it out because, like, you know, I can't play it in my car, and I do like to play things in my car. But I do like this. It is a cohesive statement. I probably like this more than I like Nice from This is 1970. So this is released, you know, the same year that Keith is with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, right? But the popularity of the Nice gradually grew in England to where at this point they were, you know, stars. Because the first, most of the first 2 albums didn't even chart in England. You'd think, right? But anyways, so I do like this piece. It is a concept album. And then the last one is Elegy. I can't remember the title of it. And of course, it's being covered by the OB. I was just playing this in my car today. This is also, you know, comprised of some live and some studio stuff. I want to say it came out in 71. These two albums sold better than the first 3. I don't know if that makes them better than the first 3, but, you know, this also has, you know, a Dylan number. I think it's My Back Pages. The first track on here, which is a long piano piece by Keith, is real good, you know, so I do recommend this one. So these 5 albums are the only officially released Nice records, you know, during the band's existence. I think that last one came out after they were broken up. There is some good stuff that has been released posthumously. I don't have it though, so I'm not going to recommend it to you. But from what I've heard, it is pretty good. Again, though, I always have that issue with Jackson's voice. And before we did the Nice Behind, you know, those guys went on to play in other bands. And I mentioned in my Yes video that if the album Refugee, which came out in 1974, which has Patrick Moraz as the keyboard player, that's a pretty good album, even though Jackson sings on it. Go figure. Okay, so let's move on to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I'm going to use as pretty much my only frame of reference this big box set, Fanfare, 1970s to 1997. I'm not going to go past the 70s because, folks, Emerson, Lake and Palmer were pretty dire when they came back in the 90s, right? So I'm not going to get into that right now, but I will mention all of their 70s stuff. I don't do unboxing videos, so I'm not going to get into what's in here, but I pulled out the CDs. So everything that they did in the 70s is in the box, except for the 1979 In Concert album, which I have, but I couldn't find. Actually, what I have is the Works Live, which double CD, which came out in 1993. That's a reimagining of In Concert, but I'll get to that when we get to that album. All right, so these are the CDs I'm going to be discussing. There are many more in the box set. It gives you everything, except for In Concert for some reason. All right, 1970, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is a great album. You know, it's got a lot of classical influences on here. It's mostly instrumental. Greg doesn't even sing that much. Of course, Greg had just come from King Crimson. He sang on the first 2 King Crimson albums. But, you know, you can see how, since Robert had such a hard time keeping that band afloat and finding musicians to get along with him, that Greg thought it would be a better, you know, for him to join Keith and Carl. And this album, this first Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, it's easily as good to these ears as either of the two 1970 Crimson albums, which would be In the Wake of Poseidon and Lizard. So, you know, was it a good decision for Greg to jump ship? Probably financially it was, you know. So, I mean, even had he stayed with Crimson, what are the odds that he would have been Crimson's singer for years, you know, when Crimson didn't really keep singers for years. So, anyways, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, it's really good. The Barbarian is great. Take a Pebble is awesome. Some of these songs are long. Knife Edge, The Three Fates is great. Tank, and then Lucky Man, which was Greg's, you know, pop ballad. And you heard that on the radio, you know, all the time when I was growing up. I'll tell you what else I have here, separate from that, is the Steven Wilson version. Now, I'm always going on about how I love surround sound albums, and especially prog and surround sound. That's how I got into it. Surround sound was I wanted, you know, to hear prog well, you know, surrounding my ears in my room. So I got this. Unfortunately, though, this is 3 discs, right? Yeah, with a DVD. Steven Wilson, bears my last name, could not find all the multis to the album, so he doesn't give you the whole album on the DVD, nor does he bother to up mix it. So he just gives you certain tracks, you know, so whatever. But I got it anyway, because I get to hear, you know, most of the album in surround. But there's that. Great album, though. Great album. In 1971... Tarkus. Oh, I forgot to bring out my mobile fidelity versions of. I have Tarkus and Trilogy. Oh well, it doesn't matter. You can see what the album looks like. The adorable little armored armadillo. The song Tarkus, which took up all of side 1, I have said in the past that's my favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer song. I just think it's awesome. It's so silly, and you know, the fact these guys would spend all this time creating a multi-part, lengthy, sweet one song about some silly little, you know, creature like this. But that's part of prog, you know. It's stuff like that, you know. You either get the humor of that or you don't. I even like side 2. Jeremy Bender, Bitches Crystal, The Only Way, Infinite Space, Time and a Place. And then the joke song, Are You Ready, Eddie? Which, you know, you don't need to take that seriously, but it's pretty good, you know. But really, Tarkus, that song, to me, that's classic prog, right? I overdose on that song. I used to play it so much. Hard for me to hear it now. Anyways, and I got the Steven Wilson Tarkus. Now, he gets all of this, I think. I think he found the multis for all of this. So this is awesome. This is 3 discs again, with the DVD being the last one. You get alternate takes and a new stereo mix on the second disc. The first disc just has the album. So that'll do you, folks. It does me. Also in 1971... Pictures Out in Exhibition, the Mazursky piece, which they not only, you know, adapt fairly well, they put in some of their own stuff in here. This is live. I think this was sold initially as like a budget line kind of LP in England, you know, like it was cheaper than regular records. I like it all. Again, it's not for everybody, you know. Very little of this is what you'd call rock. You know, but it's all prog, you know, because prog, or, you know, progressive rock, was all about taking rock music beyond its basic confines of, you know, 1/4, you know, or blues structures, or, you know, just typical, you know, it's making it I don't know, more academic. It's like, I don't want to use this jargon that's going to turn people off, because I know there's a lot of anti-proggers out there, but you know, if you are, you're probably not watching this video, are you? I like Pictures at an Exhibition. I like that album cover too, where they put all the song titles under these paintings that don't even have any pictures on it. So two really good albums in '71, definitely gaining momentum, as you know, and by '71 they had passed up King Crimson, because I mean, I like Islands, you know, that's a good album, but these two Crimson albums are better than that. Okay, I mean, these two ELP albums are better than that. Okay, this is a cool little live disc that's in the box set here, which I'm showing you. It wasn't one of their official records. This is live at Pocono International Raceway, Long Pond, Pennsylvania, July 8th, 1972. It really kind of kicks ass. Can you guys see that? All right. So, Hoedown, Tarkus, all of it. Take a Pebble, Lucky Man, Piano Improv, another Take a Pebble, it's a reprise, Pictures at an Exhibition, and Blue Rondo. I told you that they did Blue Rondo from the Nice. That's a great show. Okay. In '72, Trilogy. I also have the multi version of Trilogy. Forgot to even look for it, guys. This is another great album. This is a very commercial album, kind of, you know, after the complexity maybe of Pictures at an Exhibition. This is very accessible. You usually see their first album, Tarkus, and then Brain Salad Surgery. That might be even first, coming up as, you know, as great ELP albums. This is too. Come on. I mean, I love most all of this. Endless Enigma, there's parts 1 and part 2 in the album. There's Fugue. Yeah, again, this is Keith's you know, classical aspirations. From the Beginning is another one of those Greg ballads that you heard on the radio. He needed to have those songs, you know, because that's what drew people in. They heard those songs on the radio. They went out and bought the albums, and you know, that's how you sell it. It's like the Jefferson Starship getting Marty Balin to sing those ballads. Even though the rest of the album didn't sound like that, the rest of these albums didn't sound like the Greg Lake ballads either. That's what, you know, you got to have that aspect to your appeal to get people in. The Sheriff is funny. Hoedown, they do that one. That's a Keith, you know, what word should I use? I mean, it's a signpost to what he could do, you know. Trilogy is great. Living Sin and Abaddon's Bolero. Yeah, it's all good. This is one of their better albums. Okay, and then Brain Salad Surgery. This, when asked in the past, I have said this is my favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer album. It's very bombastic. It's very, you know, in your face. It's just, you know, it just kind of goes on forever, even though it's a single album. Jerusalem, you know, the classic English song. Toccata, Still You Turn Me On, the third of, you know, Greg's classic ballads, which they played on the radio. Benny the Bouncers, one of their joke tunes. And then the long, you know, Carnival 9, which goes from the end of side 1 around the old vinyl LP all through side 2. First Impression Part 1, First Impression Part 2, Second Impression, Third Impression, you know, just these pompous titles, but it works. And I'll show you something else too, which I've had for a long time now, and I like. This is an old Rhino DVD of Brain Salad Surgery. There's another one, but it doesn't sound as good as this. This is what you want. So if you're looking online for ELP and surround, get this old Rhino one from like either the late 90s or the early 2000s. I can't read it, but that's what it looks like. All right. And before we leave that behind, the surround sound, in the big box set that I'm showing you, you get this little, this is a Blu-ray, where you get the first 4 albums in surround. Again, I don't think that the version of Brain Salad Surgery on here is as good as what I just showed you, but you also, you know, these are the same mixes as on the as on the Steven Wilson ones that I showed you, just not without all the bonus features that those standalone releases have. So this one Blu-ray disc is, to me, if you're into surround, was worth the purchase of this whole set. Okay, so in 1974, welcome back, friends, to the show that never ends. This was a triple live album, just like Yes had the previous year in 73. And I think, I'm a big fan of this record, I think this does for ELP what Yes Songs did for Yes. This may not quite be as good of an album as that, but I like it. I mean, it's got everything here. I mean, listen to this. Hoedown, Jerusalem, Toccata, all of Tarkus, side one, I'm sorry. Take a Pebble, which is a long song too. Piano improvisations, more Take a Pebble, which is, that's a big, shout out to the first album. Jeremy Bender with the Sheriff, and then Carnival 9. I mean, it's a nice little. Only thing it doesn't have, I guess, is something from Pictures of the Next Experience. But that album was live anyway. So yeah, this is real good. By this point, they were at each other's throats, so they took years off. I think what they should have done was done solo albums to get that out of their system. But they were recording solo stuff, and when they came back in 77, they came back with 2 albums, the 2 Works albums. Neither one is that great. See, that's the issue. There are people who really like these Works albums. The thing about them is, heck, I was doing both at the same time. Works, the first volume was a double LP. Works Volume 2 is one. Most of the tracks are not with all the guys playing together. They're individual tracks. On the first one, and I have played the Volume 1 in my life more than I've played Volume 2. On the first one, first disc 1 is Keith Emerson. That's the first track, right? It's a long piano piece that he had composed, and I wish I liked it better. Greg's songs, he doesn't come up with a great ballad on here the way he had on previous ELP albums. If he would have, that would have helped sell this record. The Carl stuff is the most experimental, I guess, but it's also my least favorite, sorry to say. And then when they come together on the last side of the double LP set, it's the great Aaron Copland fanfare for a Common Man song, and then Pirates, which is just okay. So I'm gonna say the only song I really think is great is Fanfare for the Common Man. That Keith piece was called Piano Concerto No. 1, 3 movements. All right. So it's all right. There was a lot of anticipation for this record when it came out. That same year, Works 2. What's on here? When the apple blossoms bloom and the wind blows of your mind is not bad, but what a cheesy title, huh? I'll Be Your Valentine, Bullfrog. Some of the stuff I can't remember. Barrel House Shakedown. Keith liked to play that kind of stuff. Maple Leaf Rag. There you go again. I actually like Greg's I Believe in Father Christmas. That song had come out before this album, but that's one of those ones that they played on the radio at Christmas time every year. So, the Works albums, not terrible, but not great. But then in 1978, should I say that they would reach their nadir? Love Beach. Look at that Bee Gees cover with all the chest hair, their manginas hanging out, and what do you got, medallions on there. And they went down to some tropical locale to record this album, and I don't know. The weird thing is when you play it, even though it's not even as good as the Works albums, it's not dire. It's just they kept, this was their third album in a row, which was like, it's just not as good as the previous album. And the first one, The Works Volume 1, wasn't that good. They do a long proggy one, This Memorized an Officer and a Gentleman, but I don't know how great it is, or even how good it is. It's just all right, you know, with better, you know, ELP stuff to play from 70 through 74. I'll even include the live album. I don't know why you play this, but the real question is it worse than the two albums they made in the 90s? But we're not talking about that because that's not in the context of this video. All right. Oh gosh, a half hour. It's longer than I thought. Okay, I mentioned in 1979 they did the Emerson and Palmer in concert album. It's okay. Keith wanted he wanted a double album, and I don't know, I guess ELP records weren't selling at the time, or Prog was on its way down, so it was edited down to a single album. But if you get the 1993 double disc set, it's called Works Live. It's actually not bad. I recommend that, Works Live, if you want to hear late 70s live ELP. I recommend that more than any ELP record since Welcome Back, My Friends in 74. All right. So anyways, after that, they didn't do anything, you know, for the longest time. And then there was a Emerson, Lake and Powell, whatever you call it, record in the 80s. And then they got back in the early 90s, and, you know, best left forgotten. But, you know, for a while anyway, for the first half of the 70s, one of the great prog bands of all time. You know, Keith he didn't make solo records. I don't know why. I mean, Rick Wakeman sure made a gazillion of them. That guy's got like 90-something, literally 90-something solo albums. Look it up, you know. But I guess Keith just didn't feel like he had that much to say outside of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I guess he had made enough money by 1980 to live comfortably for the day. I mean, you know, whatever. So yeah, ELP would be in my top 10 favorite prog bands of all time. Hope they're one of your favorites too. This is Matt signing off.